Sarah and Vinnie on Alice at 97.3.
All right, beautiful people of Alice Radio. Here is your review of the somewhat anticipated Rosewater.
I think it's highly anticipated.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
It's Gael Garcia Bernal. So if you saw the Motorcycle Diaries, you know who this kid is. And the other one is a Persian actress. I actually saw her perform live at the Palace of Fine Arts a few months back. Her name is Golshifteh Farahani.
What did she perform?
She plays the sister of...
No. What did she perform when you saw her at the Palace of Fine Arts?
She sings and dances and, you know... And it's written and directed by Jon Stewart.
I want trombones.
So this film is about the true life events of a Canadian-Iranian journalist who worked for Newsweek. And this guy was...
Mazir Bahari.
Yeah, he was detained and tortured for 118 days by the Iranian authorities for appearing on the Jon Stewart Show.
That was one of the reasons that he was...
So, Marcus, you interviewed Jon Stewart. Do you have some insight for us?
Really interesting that Jon Stewart decided... One of the reasons that he decided to do this, to make this film, was because of some of the guilt that he felt about this guy being picked up, in part because of the interview he did for The Daily Show. It was if you've seen the interview, the guy is being interviewed by one of Jon Stewart's crazy reporters, and the guy is saying, "Yes, I'm a terrorist and I'm a spy and all this stuff."
Because that's sort of the
that's what
tone.
they do.
But that's the problem, is that it's a fake news show. But if you don't get the American humor, you're on this show saying you're a spy and a terrorist.
Right, and of course. But there are other reasons besides that. He had been under surveillance for a while just because he was a journalist from America. So he was already under the radar, on their radar a bit anyway. And Jon decided, you know what, this is crazy. You were in there for all these months, and we want to talk about this.
Did the guy write a book about it, and then Jon adapted it?
He did write a book.
Okay.
He wrote the book, and it was a bestseller, and Jon Stewart picked it up and said, this has to become a movie. Now, what happened was Jon wanted to make the movie right away, but he couldn't get the money people on board fast enough. So he's like, you know what? Screw it. I'll do it myself. So first-time writer, first-time director, and he does a brilliant job.
And he paid for it.
Brilliant job. The guy is, he's ridiculously talented.
Yeah.
So this movie was really hard for me to watch because, it's all about the Persians and the corruption of the government. Often throughout the film, it was a lot of bad news from Iran. But Marcus, as an outsider, I'm dying to know, do you watch this movie? Does it make Persians look horrible? Does it make Iran look horrible? Are you able to see past it?
Well, not from my standpoint, because, for me, it was kind of what I thought anyway. I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but I had already assumed that. We've seen journalists being taken prisoner in this country a gazillion times, and other countries as well. This is just what happens when people think that you are doing something insulting to their culture, to their religion, to their government.
And then
That's
you make the mistake of going there.
Yeah, yeah. And taking pictures of people being shot and sending the pictures out to the rest of the world, and they know who you are. They snatch you up and they throw you in. They make you sign a false confession, and then maybe you get to leave, maybe you don't.
So Jon didn't just direct, but he also wrote the screenplay. How was his writing?
Again, it's excellent. It's such a good film. You forget that this was written and directed by a guy who's essentially been a comedian for the last 35 years. He's just one of those guys who pretty much, whatever he decides to pick up and do, he's going to be great at it. Not just good, he's going to be great at it. And this is a movie with only basically 5 or 6 characters in the entire 90-plus minutes.
Yeah.
And it is excellent. There is tension where there needs to be. The acting is spot on. It really is brilliant.
So to talk about the acting, I criticize Jake Gyllenhaal all the time for being the Prince of Persia, even though he's not Persian. And the guy Gael Garcia Bernal, he's not Persian, but he did a great job.
He passes.
Yeah, he was really good. So to sum it all up, let me just say this movie really hard for me to watch. I know how the Persian people are, and I know how the government is, and it always worries me when a movie like this comes up because I don't want people to walk away and be like, oh man, look at how messed up these people are. Because the people are great. And it's just like 1% of 1% that's...
Will this movie be a hit?
No.
I don't know if it'll be a hit film.
What did they spend on it? Do you know?
Not much.
I can look.
No, not much.
I think probably at least $10 million.
Is it in limited release?
Yeah, it's limited.
Tomorrow it's out, right?
Yeah, tomorrow it's limited. I'm going to go ahead and... I don't know what the takeaway is. I didn't feel elated. I didn't feel bummed. I was...
Really?
Yeah, I was just like, oh, all right, I made it through.
You feel like you might be...
Well, I'm biased because, So, it was a good movie. I'm going to give it 4 Persians.
Yeah, I got to give it 4 Aussies. It's just an excellent film. One of the best movies you will see this year.
Wow.
And it's interesting because I don't think that at least from my perspective, I don't think it was insulting to the Persian people, to Iranians in any way, shape, or form. It was really merely this small 3 months, 4 months of a guy being in prison by the Iranian government. And I don't think it was that bad. I didn't think it made anybody look bad. I'll tell you what it really does. It really points out to no, seriously.
Let him finish.
It really does point out how things you take for granted, the things you say and do, you take for granted here, they can be completely misinterpreted when you go somewhere else. The guy was being questioned about his Facebook status. Yeah. And, you're writing for Newsweek, but isn't that a spy? I mean, he picked up Maxim magazine. Isn't this porn? Isn't this porn? I mean, it was crazy.